Gracias a todos. Ya tenemos micrófono. Gracias. Thank you so much, please. We are about to start. Thank you so much to everybody. Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you. Gracias a todos. Gracias a todos. Bueno, ya. Gracias. En nombre de UNICEF, quiero darles la bienvenida a este acto tan importante por la infancia. El acto se va a retransmitir en directo a más de 100 países y por ese motivo vamos a proceder a hacer el acto en inglés, pero todos ustedes tienen la posibilidad de seguir el acto con traducción simultánea, con lo cual voy a dar ahora ya paso a hablar en inglés, ¿ok? Bueno, muy bienvenidos a todos. Thank you so much for joining us today for this very special high-level event on the climate crisis and children's rights. My name is Paloma Escudero. I am the Global Director of Communication at UNICEF. I am delighted to be welcoming you to an event where children are taking center stage and leading all of us in a dialogue about the impact of the climate crisis on their lives. The presence today of Theo, Pablo, Camila, Penelope, Cosi, and Sarah reminds us that the demands we are hearing from young people on the streets all over the world need to be reflected in the corridors of power here in Madrid, in COP. I am also delighted to welcome representatives of governments who are committed to putting children at the heart of climate policies. Chile, Costa Rica, Fiji, Luxembourg, Monaco, Nigeria, Peru, and Spain have indeed signed the declaration we are launching today. This Intergovernmental Declaration on Children, Youth and Climate Change is a historic step towards accelerating inclusive, child-responsive climate policies. Policies that protect, respect and fulfill the rights of society's most vulnerable and enhance the participation of young people in the decisions that affect them. Why is this declaration important? For two reasons. The climate crisis is a child rights crisis. We cannot lose sight of this fact, particularly as we are celebrating the 30th anniversary of the Convention of the Rights of the Child, but also we are celebrating tomorrow Human Rights Day. From hurricanes to droughts, to floods, to wildfires, the consequences of the climate crisis are all around us, affecting children the most and threatening their health, education, protection, and very survival. Let me give you an example. 500 million children live in areas at extremely high risk of floods due to extreme weather events such as cyclones, hurricanes, and storms, as well as rising sea levels. Just a few days ago, UNICEF released a report saying that the number of children forced to leave their homes because of storms in the Caribbean increased sixfold in the last years. The second reason why this declaration is important is that right now, less than half of all countries have national climate plans, and half of the countries having national climate plans mention children of youth, and only 20% of those mention children explicitly. We must do better than that. As member states continue to move forward in the implementation of the Paris Agreement, they have a unique window of opportunity to put children front and center. Because, as the Secretary General said here last week, the climate crisis is getting closer and closer to the point of no return. This is why it is imperative that we put children at the heart of climate policies, and why it is urgent that we invest in the practical solutions that protect children from the effects of climate change. With the right technology and funding, we can preserve supplies of clean, safe groundwater so that children are not at risk of killer diseases. With long-term investments, we can build more resilient communities that are able to withstand extreme weather events, so that if a massive storm, flood, or wildfire happens, they can recover quickly, and children are not uprooted from school or homes. With the right kind of education, children can grow up knowing how to create sustainable communities, become leaders of sustainable businesses, and live sustainable lifestyles. With a massive program to deliver solar-powered health centers, schools, and other essential services, we can create cleaner, cheaper, and more sustainable facilities for children around the world. There is reason for hope. We still have a chance to turn things around. No, not just a chance, an obligation, a duty, because children have a right to inherit a healthy planet. But don't take it from me. I want you to hear from our esteemed speakers. First of all, let me welcome the High Commissioner for Human Rights, Michelle Bachelet.
Excellencies, ministers, dear Mary, young people, distinguished activists from all over the world. Greetings to all of you, and let me say how glad I am to be here to be able to thank you profoundly for your determination and clarity, and particularly thank the representative of governments that have signed the Declaration on Children's Rights and Climate Change. The struggle for climate justice and effective, urgent climate action is a struggle for human rights. Children and young people in particular have been at the forefront of this movement recently, marching peacefully and persistently, engaging in strategic litigation, helping to devise climate solutions, overturning obstacles and overcoming threats. Many young people are angry about the failure of leaders, of government, business and institutions to act on the realities that all of us can see. Climate change is already underway, destroying lives, vital infrastructure and ecosystems. No country, no economy, and no community will despair from the impact. There is no room for denial or business as usual in the face of these facts. Our world, our lives, and your future is at stake. Children and young people, including young people under the age of 18, have a right to participate in decision-making. The Convention of the Rights of the Child demands this. The Paris Agreement reaffirms it. And I am glad to see young people asserting this right in courtrooms and on the street, at the United Nations and in parliaments to demand more effective climate action. My office will continue to work for your right to express your views and to have those views taken into account in climate action at all levels, including here at COP25, where we must push to realize the full potential of the Action for Climate Empowerment agenda. We will continue to advocate and assist governments around the world to take real and urgent action to address the disproportionate effect of the climate crisis on the rights of children and youth, particularly those in vulnerable communities whose voices are stifled by poverty or discrimination. We will intensify our work with business, investment institutions, and states to ensure that all business actors adopt human rights standards throughout their operations, from the supply and raw materials to the distribution and impact of the goods they sell. And we will continue to work for a swift and just transition to a green economy, one in which you and future generations will be able to thrive and grow. I understand the despair and rage so many young people and older ones too are feeling. All of us know the fact, but so far there has been far too little real action. Your advocacy is helping to change that, and is a real force of hope for all of us. Climate justice is important because climate change discriminates. The people and communities who are being most profoundly affected by climate change are those who already suffer discrimination because of poverty, discrimination on the basis of sex, indigenous status, disability, or minority status, and because they have been displaced. A study published by Nature in October indicates that land that is currently home to some 150 million people will be, and I will quote, permanently below the high tide line, end of quote, within 30 years. So where will all these families find shelter, services, food, a new life? So our work, your work to ensure climate justice is vital. We need to effectively address climate threats with internationally coordinated responses that are based on equity and a just transition to more appropriate economic structures. We need incentives, regulations, and laws to protect our human rights, including the right to a healthy environment. We need to implement massive energy efficiency and conservation practices and root out the discrimination which exposes peoples and communities to climate harms. We need capacity building and financial assistance. We need to implement the principle of intergenerational equity that the Paris Agreement explicitly lays out. We need to ensure that all people, including children, have access to justice and remedy when their rights are violated and the right to participate in making decisions. We need to protect climate activists from threats and harm. And above all, we need you to preserve our planet and protect our future. Thank you very much.
Muchas gracias, señora Bachelet. Thank you, Madame Bachelet. Very urgent words. Just have a look to the screens. We are having there drawings from kids in Chile that you can see in an exhibition by UNICEF in the green area. But now is the moment to really bring the voices of young people to COP25 today. Because this is an event about children and youth, it is only right that the young person should deliver the next address. Speaking on behalf of Younger, I'd like to introduce you all to Theo Cullen Moose. Theo is a climate activist from Ireland. He is 17 years old, and I hope you find him as inspiring as I do. Theo, please come to the stage.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for the opportunity to speak here today. My name is Theo Cullen Moose. I've just turned 17. Of course, I like being treated as an adult. But as a legal child, today I am speaking to you as a child. I would like to address the policymakers in this building and beyond. I have grown up on a small island, 5 kilometers off the west coast of Ireland. Our offshore community of Clare Island, population 150, is already suffering the effects of the climate catastrophe in a very real and frightening way. Winter storms are wilder, summer droughts are longer. Extreme flooding is more and more frequent. Alarmed by the increasing evidence all around me, I have become a climate activist and a school striker. Not because I want to, but because I have no option but to be one. Since January, I have been organizing strikes nationally as part of Fridays for Future Ireland, and I strike every week in front of my local government office. Usually there are just 2 of us, myself and my 13-year-old sister. Last Friday, as I made my way to Madrid by sea, my sister was striking alone. Except she was not alone. My sister was joined by other young people striking in solidarity all over the world. On Friday, September 20th, there were 7.5 million of us. My sister was alone on her street, but 500,000 of us marched through the streets of Madrid, demanding climate action. Not because we want to, but because we must. We are climate activists because we care. I possess enormous privilege in even being able to come here, in being able to raise the money in having the support of my family. I am honored to be here, standing in solidarity with my fellow activists. But I am not happy to be here. My colleagues would say the same. I am saddened by the glaring omissions. There are so many who should be here, but who aren't. Indigenous people and activists from the Global South have been fighting for far longer than I have. And they have the experience and generations worth of wisdom that we should be listening to. And yet we cannot hear them because so many of them are not here because they were not given the opportunity to be here. Does it not trouble you that the same lobbyists who are destroying our planet are given VIP treatment and can buy their way to these negotiations? All the while, those who are doing the most for all of our collective futures, sometimes risking their lives, cannot make it? We are striking because we are frightened, and we are also striking because we are angry. Normally, adults mind their children. Normally, adults make sure that their children don't do anything stupid. Normally, adults help their children to avoid putting their futures at risk. Unfortunately, the adults today are doing the exact opposite. I did not come to the COP25 to see shiny pavilions or to hear about the placement of brackets in non-binding declarations, or even to speak about the climate crisis. I came to Madrid because the adults are acting like children. The adults are discussing whether a meeting should be called a multilateral, a bilateral, or something else entirely, while our planet literally burns. For 30 years, you and people like you have sat around tables and talked and talked and talked. You have promised much, and you have delivered very little. Today, people are dying. Children are dying. If you were to ask me to sum up everything that is wrong with the climate crisis, I think I would say that. Children are dying. So today, we are asking you, please, please listen to us. Please listen to the science. Please sign the Declaration on Climate, Youth, and Children. And please, take us seriously. The politics of the past will not get us out of this crisis. Einstein once said, "You cannot solve a problem with the same mindset that created it." Your failure is a failure of imagination. So please, I ask you again, listen to us. Listen to the science, imagine a better world, and start to act like the grown-ups in the room. Thank you.
Bueno. Yo creo se puede decir más alto, pero no se puede decir más claro. You can say it louder, you cannot say it clearer. And now that we have heard from a youngster, it's time to hear from an elder, the chair of the elders, in fact, and the former president of Ireland, Her Excellency Mary Robinson. Mrs. Robinson has been a leading light in the cause of peace, human rights and climate justice for almost 5 decades. Few people understand the challenges and triumphs of building a new world better than her. She's going to moderate a conversation between 5 government ministers and 5 young people, where we get to hear their perspectives. Mrs. Robinson, please come to the stage.
Thank you, and maybe as I'm speaking, the 5 ministers and the 5 young people who are going to be panelists could be coming up just to save time. And I'm really delighted to be here as chair of the elders. We were brought together in 2007 by Nelson Mandela. How proud he'd be at this intergenerational dialogue, and how proud I am of Theo. We met recently in Ireland, and he spoke very well and from the heart today. And I think we're going to have a very good panel because it's a little bit different. It's going to be a panel of a genuine intergenerational dialogue between young people, children and young people, and government ministers. But actually, this is a dialogue that shouldn't just happen here at COP. It must now happen in every country. It must happen in the context of every country preparing their nationally determined contributions with raised ambition. It must happen, and these children will definitely be putting questions to the ministers to say how much they want to see real transformative change and moving away from the fossil fuel dependent economies that we have now to the clean world that is a safe and healthy world for children and generations to come. Can I just say how grateful I am to the children. I've been working in climate justice for about the last maybe 2 decades. I formed a foundation on climate justice, and I used to talk about the injustice of climate change affecting much more those who are least responsible, the poorest countries, the small island states, the indigenous peoples, even poor communities in wealthier countries, they were affected. And then I would often, at some point, talk as a grandmother, having 6 grandchildren, but I never really managed to get home the true intergenerational injustice. That's what the children have done. They have called out the adult world, as Theo called us out very effectively a few moments ago, because this is a gross injustice to young people. When I was growing up, I didn't have that shadow of wondering will I have a safe world at all to live in. It's not fair that we have condemned children so far to have that worry and that fear and to have to be active on Fridays for Future every Friday. So we need this wonderful intergenerational dialogue that I'm now going to moderate, and I see they've kindly left me a chair in the middle. And I'm going to begin by asking each one, and I can do it from here. I'll start with you, Paolo, to give your name, your age, and what you're doing, your role in climate, and then pass along, and then I'll come to the ministers.
Okay, sorry. Well, I'm Pablo. I'm from Granada. It's a city in the south of Spain. And, well, I was fighting against the climate change for so many years. I am volunteer in the Greenpeace local group of Granada, and I also from the Scout movement of Spain. Thanks.
Okay. Firstly, my name is Nkosletti. I'm from Zimbabwe. So I'm the current Youth Climate Ambassador for UNICEF Zimbabwe. So I've been fighting against climate change through media. So I've produced my 2 videos, the first one entitled Waste Management and the second one, Air Pollution. And one of my milestones so far is the establishment of a biogas digester at my primary school. So just to put the usage of clean energy into action. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yo voy a hablar en español por un tema de confianza con el idioma y porque además traigo también voces de Centroamérica y pues ahí hablamos español, ¿verdad? Yo tengo 24 años, soy de Costa Rica y estoy en esto del activismo desde la misma edad en que están estos chicos y chicas. Empecé participando en actividades igual que ellos, a nivel local, a nivel de acciones propiamente con las personas y luego empezamos con espacios de incidencias propios en Costa Rica, trabajando con organizaciones y representaciones nacionales. De hecho, una super noticia es que hace 2-3 semanas aprobamos la primera política pública de la persona joven de Costa Rica que incluye cambio climático. Entonces, eso es como el resultado de un activismo colectivo y articulado que hemos estado trabajando en Costa Rica y que hoy estaré representando en este panel.
My name is Camila. I am from Mexico and I am 16 years old. I am a climate activist as well as a school striker, just like Theo. And I've been working mainly with gender equality concerning the climate crisis, especially with young women under 20 years old.
Hi, my name is Penelope. I'm 15 years old and from Norway. I'm a climate activist. And I've been working with this since I was 8 years old, so I've done a lot of different work. I've been a member of the Children's Climate Board in Norway for several years, and now I'm working as a UNICEF ambassador with special focus on peace and climate.
Thank you. And now I'm going to do the same with the ministers. I'm going to ask you to give your name, your age. Age is optional, maybe, if you're a bit embarrassed by it, but anyway, no. Anyway, and very briefly, your role in the ministry. So, beginning with you, Isabel.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. I am very happy to be here. Thank you, Pablo, for your question. I am Isabel Celaá. I am the Minister of Education and Vocational Training of Spain, and I am 70. In fact, if you want me to continue?
No.
Okay.
Please.
I don't have one. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Ayaz Said Kayoum. I'm 54 years old. I'm the Attorney General Minister for Economy from Fiji, but I'm also Minister responsible for climate change. I think we're the first country in the world that actually merged climate change with economy, Ministry of Economy, to mainstream climate change policies. Thanks.
Good day. My name is Carlos Manuel Rodriguez, 59. I'm a Costa Rican environmentalist and the Minister of Environment and Energy.
Bueno, para equilibrar la cosa de este lado, yo también voy a hablar en español. Mi nombre es Fabiola Muñoz Dodero, soy peruana, tengo 48 años y soy ministra del Ambiente. Y comparto algo con algunos de los que está allá, yo también he sido scout, así que siempre listos.
Hello everyone, my name is Sharon Ikeazo. I'm the Minister of State for the Environment in Nigeria. I'm 59 years old, but I'd like to state I'm not a senior citizen, but a recycled teenager.
Thank you. And actually, I notice there's a slight, not exactly a discrimination, but all the young have mics, individual mics, and there's only one mic floating between the ministers, but they handled it very well, so that's a very good sign. Now we come to the intergenerational dialogue and questions. Paolo, I think you put the first question to Minister Isabel.
Okay, I start. Okay, as youth, student involved in the environment movement, we are proposing an economic system that works for the planet and with emphasis on a circular economy in line with the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change Advice, IPCC. My question is, who is the government of Spain planning to mainstream climate change across all these policies, including in education and training, to adequately equip children and young people for the future? Thank you.
Thank you, yeah. In fact, you probably know, Pablo, that the Spanish government is aware of the importance of taking actions to tackle climate change. In fact, we are ready to go further and faster, as the President of the United Nations said here last week. We are really determined to move forward, to take a step forward. It's very important for us. And we want to be, and we are making a great effort to be part of the group of countries that lead the climate agenda. And in fact, we are working with the objective to become a country with carbon neutral economy by 2050. We are working on that. We don't want to have greenhouse gas emissions by that date. And apart from that, we have to work on education. Education is our main tool, it's our principal tool, I would say. And education means that we have to educate children to raise environmental awareness in them. And
do you have the Sustainable Development Goals in your curriculum?
Of course, of course. We are working on the curriculum at the moment. We are preparing a new curriculum precisely to do so, to achieve that goal. And in that curriculum, we want to, apart from having this sustainable development all throughout the curriculum in all levels, we want to include another subject, a specific subject called civic and ethic values, which will focus on respect to human rights, respect for diversity, equality between women and men, and particularly this development of sustainable development in all children. We want all children, and I'm finishing now, we want all children to get both theoretical and practical knowledge on that.
Yeah. Thank you, Minister. And thank you to Spain for hosting this conference here for Chile here in Madrid. Nkosi, you are going to pose a question to Minister Aya from Fiji. Would you like to put your question?
Yes, thank you, ma'am. Looking at the countries we both come from, I mean Zimbabwe and Fiji, we both come from countries with which are vulnerable, which are highly vulnerable to climate change, and with limited resources. Like, I mean, my country is landlocked, and I've never even seen a dolphin or even a beach. Well, my question is, looking at it, taking it from the political and economic context, how can our countries fight against climate change? Thank you, ma'am.
I think fighting climate change, there are two specific ways, in particular for the smaller countries or countries with very little resources. I think the first thing is that we as countries, as people living in those countries, we need to walk the talk. In other words, we cannot sort of play the victim. Of course, you may be the victims of climate change or the emissions by larger countries. For example, in the Pacific, we have very negligible carbon footprint, although we are the coalface of climate change like many other countries. But you should also ensure that you also have a very low carbon footprint too, as negligible as it may be, because you need to set an example. So you can say to others, look, we are doing it ourselves, and therefore we have the moral high ground, and ask others to do it. Second thing is, by using that, and by then therefore having a much louder voice, to be able to advocate for that on the global stage.
Thank you. I must say, I was in Zimbabwe recently, and I know how vulnerable. You've just had a terrible cyclone some time ago that affected, and drought, and even the falls, the Niagara Falls, the famous falls in Zimbabwe have gone dry. Isn't that right?
I mean, like the falls, yeah. To a certain extent, climate change is contributing, but as a person who lives there, I believe it is now.
Yeah. Okay. Now. Sarah, you're going to ask in Spanish, yes, a question to your Minister, Carlos.
It's in English?
Yeah.
So, Costa Rica has a very strong track record on climate change. Even though we are a small country, so what do we write that others can learn from, and what could we still be doing better, especially in relation to children and youth?
Well, thank you for that question, Sarah. You know, today young people are really passionate, and I, as a minister, if I would like to bring the youth and hire people, I will ask for something else. Passion is inherent in the terms of reference, let's say. I would say, I want a crazy guy. Why? I come from a middle-income family in Costa Rica, very conservative. When I was 22 years old, I told my father that I was going in strike with 3 other friends because the government of Costa Rica was building a huge dam in a pristine rainforest river called the Pacuare River in Costa Rica. And I told my father I was leaving home for 2 weeks, and he said, "You're crazy." And you know what? We stopped that dam. And today, as a minister, I just recently stopped the last biggest dam to be constructed in Costa Rica. So probably we'll never ever had a hydroelectric dam in Costa Rica. And that was basically because we were a few crazy guys. We need a bunch of crazy young kids with a lot of passion to really lead and be the force of change. Because when I hear you all over here, seems like nobody's putting attention on the next room where negotiations are happening. In the next room, we still hear a lot of people denying what science is saying, denying putting wording in terms of mentioning IPCC or the 1.5. These are people who are not going to be affected by climate change. These are people who are not vulnerable to climate change. They don't know what climate change means to many of those nations and societies. This is why we need to bring the young kids, not just with passion, but with very crazy ideas to begin doing the change from the bottom up.
Thank you. Are you suggesting, Carlos, that the children should now invade the green zone? Is that? Well, next question, Camilla. You're going to ask a question of the Minister for Peru, Fabiola.
Yes, thank you. Minister, there is a lot going on in the world today, such as political unrest, gender and social inequality, which distract from the climate crisis. How can we ensure that climate policies and action respond to these issues and include marginalized groups, such as women and girls, especially in Latin America, in the decision-making process?
Yo les preguntaría cómo quisieran ustedes que los incluyamos. I ask you, what is the way that you want that we include you? Y la verdad es que nosotros estamos en Perú tratando de hacer diferentes ejercicios para incluir a los jóvenes y a las jóvenes. Y claramente uno de los ejercicios más interesantes que hicimos hace un tiempo atrás fue trabajar en el Perú una estrategia que se llama, que en realidad tiene por objetivo incluir el tema de género y cambio climático. Es un plan de acción sobre género y cambio climático. Y ese proceso fue muy interesante porque lo hacemos a través de una plataforma que nosotros llamamos Dialoguemos. Y Dialoguemos es una metodología que Perú ha diseñado para tener un espacio de participación con todos los actores de los diferentes grupos de interés que tenemos. Pueblos indígenas, por ejemplo, es un tema sumamente importante, pero también el empresariado y especialmente los jóvenes. A mí me impresionó mucho, hace poco tuvimos en Perú el Congreso Latinoamericano y del Caribe de Áreas Naturales Protegidas. Y los jóvenes, todos los participantes, teníamos que presentar, digamos, declaraciones. Los pueblos indígenas presentaron su declaración, los guardaparques presentaron su declaración, diferentes grupos presentaron su declaración, pero cuando le tocó al grupo de los jóvenes, se prepararon de tal manera que no eran 1, 2 o 3 como en los anteriores grupos, eran 100, organizados, habían definido los roles que tenían que cumplir y los mensajes que tenían que dar. Y lo que nos dijeron fue: nosotros protestamos, proponemos y nos comprometemos. Y ahora nosotros hemos cogido como gobierno eso y ahora les decimos, nosotros nos hemos comprometido, estamos abriendo los espacios y queremos trabajar juntos. ¿Qué proponemos?
Yeah. Muy bien. Do you want to come back? No?
Yes, I actually do. You say you have been opening the spaces for young people to talk. This, for example, is a great example of that. We are now here talking to you in this open dialogue for us to ask you questions as well as you to ask us questions. However, you are not giving us the tools necessary for us to go ahead and make these possible. We are not taught from a young age how to speak, how to prepare ourselves for these kind of things, these kind of events. And we have the spaces, however we cannot reach them because we don't know how, and you are not allowing us to have the knowledge necessary to go in those spaces. This is what I ask all of you and everyone in the decision-making table. We need the tools necessary, and we have the spaces. We need more of them, actually, but we need the tools. How do we get there?
Thank you, Camilla. I think that's a general question rather than a question back to the Minister from Peru. And I want to bring in...
Sorry.
Okay, very short.
Tú tienes razón. Necesitamos darles las herramientas y en Perú lo hemos entendido. De hecho, tuvimos hace poco un dialoguemos con jóvenes de todas las regiones del Perú. Un adolescente y un joven fueron seleccionados, fueron a nuestra capital y tuvimos 3 días de capacitación para que se preparen, se desarrollen sus habilidades para poder hablar y sus liderazgos también. Y de ahí puedan salir propuestas que puedan ser presentadas en espacios como estos. Sí, ese es un tema que tenemos que fortalecer, pero lo sabemos y lo estamos haciendo. Sigámoslo haciendo juntos.
Thank you. Now, Penelope, you've been waiting. Penelope from Norway, you want to pose a question for Sharon, the Minister from Nigeria.
Yeah. First, I have to say one thing. I believe the youth movement has created something very special. A new and global feeling of affiliation and closeness to each other between youth all over the world. I believe this connection has in some cases made us feel closer to each other than we do to our own governments. And I believe this strong feeling of solidarity has weakened our borders, our identity as countries. Maybe not physical, but for many young people like me, like you, emotional. And I believe you need to bring this feeling of solidarity and commitment into the rooms where the decisions are made. Earlier this autumn, I met with the ambassador of Seychelles, Unidas. He said something really important to me. He said, if you manage to save the small island states, the ones most vulnerable, you will save yourself. I would like to add, if you manage to save the most vulnerable ones, the children, you will save yourself. Now.
And remind me again, Penelope, what age are you?
What did you say?
What age are you?
I'm 15.
15?
Yeah.
Okay. And the question?
Yeah, now the question. Coming from Norway, a country that has all the opportunities and the resources and historic responsibility to act, but they still don't. Climate justice really concerns me and a lot of the young people in Norway in the youth movement. As the Minister of Nigeria, could you point out some of the main issues on climate justice as you see them? Thank you.
Thank you, Penelope. Let me start by saying I was worried for the next generation, for the children. But seeing you all in here, I'm not worried anymore because you all know what the issue is and what the crisis that we are facing. I would also say engaging with the youth has helped Nigeria redefine our outlook towards the climate crisis. As we are here today, we have 6 of our youth that the government sponsored to come to COP, and we actually asked them to shadow our negotiators. So we are actually inviting the Nigerian youth on the table. And I'm also glad you mentioned climate justice, because without climate justice, we can't achieve anything. To me, that is the main issue. Let us tackle the issue of climate justice. Then we can now begin to tackle other issues.
Okay, thank you. Now I'm going to switch and I'm going to let the ministers pose questions to the young people, but I'm going to let young people, 1 or 2 of you, if you want to respond to each question, as opposed to just one person. And I think you know when you hear the question, you know whether you want to respond to it. The first question, it will be from you, Isabel. You posed. Do you want to pose it to a particular person, or?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay.
I would like to, very much. In fact, the challenge of climate change is a threat. Though a threat, it's also an opportunity to change our economic system and to change our way of living and to change our way of investing and of traveling even our way of thinking. So many policies are involved in that transformation that our society requires to face that challenge. Among all these policies, Pablo, which one specifically would you underline, would you like to see us politicians adopt in the first place?
Okay, I'll let Paolo answer, and then if anybody else, one other would like to come in, you can come in, okay? Paolo?
I'm going to answer in Spanish because I want to clarify everything. If you have any doubt, please let me know. Bueno, habría muchísimas cosas en las que incidir, ¿no? Sobre todo espacios de juventud, porque creo que sin esos espacios igual se pierde un poco el contexto. Yo soy de Granada y bueno, llamó mucho la atención cuando se inauguró el AVE a Granada, porque el presidente del gobierno, Pedro Sánchez, dijo que era la forma más ecológica de viajar, pero cuando un AVE cuesta 120 euros, pues la gente joven no nos lo podemos permitir y al final perdemos la única forma de transporte ecológico que teníamos para viajar. Entonces, por favor, incluyan a gente joven a la hora de hacer políticas y especialmente las contribuciones determinadas a nivel nacional, que son bueno, la base de lo que se va a hacer sobre el Acuerdo de París. Por favor, incluyan pues, desde el Ministerio de Transición Ecológica, y hago un llamamiento a Teresa Rivera, a gente joven, y en el Ministerio de Educación, muchas gracias por hablar de la asignatura que quieren implementar. Por favor, incluyan a gente joven a la hora de desarrollar esas políticas, porque estamos luchando en la calle, estamos cuestionando nuestro futuro por estar en la calle luchando contra el cambio climático, y creo que tenemos que ser escuchados y tenemos el derecho a que se nos oiga. Muchas gracias. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Paolo. And actually, I think you've made a really important point there, especially at the beginning, talking about the train. Clean energy solutions have to be affordable. They have to be accessible to people. I think that's really very important.
Yes, of course.
Yeah. Yes, Ngoli, would you like to?
Okay, I think a policy which can be adopted is a policy which includes everyone, which actually has an ability to reach out even to the marginalized communities, the rural areas, and even considering the fact that we have the NTCs. Currently, from my own perspective and everyone's perspective, you actually agree with me that in each country there is a young person. In every country there are youth. So they need to benefit. So I think if I may pose a question, as a minister, how would you encourage other governments to actually sign the NTC so as to include the youth into their policies? Thank you.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Sorry, I didn't quite get the question because I was sort of listening to the same. Do you mind repeating the question again?
Okay, I was saying, in every country, there are young people. In every country, there are youth. So, my question is, as a minister, what can you do at your level so as to encourage other governments to sign so that every youth is actually included into those NTCs in different countries?
Okay, about children being included in the NTCs.
Sure.
And then you get a chance to ask the youth a question, because
sure.
You know, this is a bit unfair. You're being asked a second question, but don't worry.
Well, you know, in our country, 70% of the population is below the age of 40. 50% of the population is below the age of 27. We started about 3 years ago. You know, every year you have your budgets. The government delivers a budget. So we used to have public consultations, but what we did was we started consultations with young people. So we invited all the high schools in all the different districts, and we used to have a budget consultation with all the youths, essentially to get their input. And so it also involves our climate change strategy, and that's how we get them involved. We currently have a climate change bill that's before the members of our community in the Fiji itself overall, and we have a very vibrant exchange over social media, where people are given a platform, they can comment on it, they can say what they want within the bill. So if I can ask my question.
Yes.
Somebody said from the other side that I think there's a fairly generalized statement. I think if we are to make any real headway, and I think we are, but if we gain the momentum, we have to move away from generalization. How politicians deal with the youth vis-a-vis climate change varies from country to country. So I don't think it's very healthy to say
a short question, please.
All politicians like that. In the same way with the youths, you're very active, it's great. But there are also many other youths who actually don't buy into what you believe in. They don't actually believe that climate change is a problem, or they're not necessarily educated about it.
And the question,
how do you bring them into it? In order for you to advocate as a politician, that's fine, but there's probably another 50% of the youth population in the world. How do you bring them in to think like you?
Okay, I'm going to put that to the three girls because you haven't spoken earlier.
Creo que, bueno, quisiera también retomar un momento como lo que estaban hablando ahorita los chicos, porque ocupamos que abran estos espacios, pero es súper necesario que si no saben cómo abrirlos, busquen a quienes ya estamos trabajando en esto, que busquen a las mismas personas jóvenes para trabajar en conjunto sobre la apertura de estos espacios, porque ya nos han demostrado muchas veces en distintas partes del mundo que cuando pedimos espacios solamente se quedan con que no saben cómo abrirlos o que con que los jóvenes no están participando activamente. Entonces, como esta recomendación de que por favor, si no saben cómo hacerlo, busquen a las personas que estamos trabajando sobre esto y que hemos llevado como nuestro activismo también hacia esto.
Good. Well, I like a disruptive panel, so I'm very happy. I think I'm going to ask, I know Penelope, when we were talking earlier, you mentioned that there's a children's board, the Young People's Board in Norway, and maybe there are other examples in countries of where children are involved. In my own country recently, the national parliament was given over to children, and there were the same number of children as there are members of the parliament. They had the full coverage of national television, and they came up with really 10 excellent recommendations that if Ireland will implement, it will make a difference. They haven't done it yet, but so you can, in answering, you can also refer to good examples of space for children, as you said.
Yeah, as I said, I have been sitting in the Children's Climate Board in Norway for several years, and we have received thousands of thoughts and opinions.
And who sets it up? Who set it up?
What did you say?
Who set up this board?
It was children. It was children and youth. And we did it for a lot of years ago. And we have received thousands of thoughts from children in Norway. And we write a report about it every year and give it to the politicians. So we try to be this thing in the middle to make sure the politicians don't forget that what they do affects us and have an impact on small children. When that is said, I want to say one more thing. Because unlike other crises we as humans have faced before, the climate crisis has a deadline, a ticking clock. And as this ticking clock gets closer every day, it calls for new ways to think, new ways to act, new ways to collaborate. And I believe for a lot of youth in the youth movement, willingness, urgency, fear and love is so strong, and it really burns inside. It's physical. We feel what's on stake every day. We sense the ticking clock, and we know that we cannot save ourselves in this crisis without building the same safety for everybody else. And I think we challenge the willingness to act, and I think those words are not just words for us. It's truth, and it does something with the way we search for new solutions.
Okay, I want to bring in the other questioners first. Yes, please.
Thank you, Mary. I want to make a question to Sara. Sara, I'm very curious about if you were appointed the Minister of Environment and Energy of Costa Rica tomorrow, what will be your priorities? Sara, si usted la nombra mañana ministra del MINAE, ¿cuáles serían sus prioridades?
Okay. Creo que aquí también se puede retomar incluso la pregunta que hacía el ministro de Fiji, porque creo que una de las primeras cosas en las que estaría trabajando sería el tema de educación ante el cambio climático. ¿Por qué? Porque esa es la forma en que podemos llegarle a los grupos vulnerables, que son los grupos que se nos están quedando por fuera de toda esta lucha. Hay que entender que estamos aquí, que esto es un privilegio, estar aquí el día de hoy es un total privilegio, y que las voces que deberían de estar aquí incluidas son las que nos están costando más incluir en nuestros países. Son las voces que son las más vulnerables y son las voces que también están negando el cambio climático. ¿Por qué? Porque es un tema de educación. Si no se les está enseñando qué es, si no no se les dice que las mismas consecuencias que ya están viviendo es por el cambio climático, entonces realmente estas personas están quedando por fuera y hoy no van a creer en que esta crisis está existiendo. Eso sería como el primero. El segundo sería incluir las perspectivas de las personas jóvenes. Creo que lo que cada uno y una ha dicho nos demuestra que hay que ver más allá de lo que los adultos actuales que están tomando decisiones están viendo, que hay afectaciones que nosotros somos los que tenemos que poner sobre la mesa. Por ejemplo, el tema de empleos verdes, el tema de economía azul, el tema de gestión de riesgos, que somos los que vamos a vivir a mayor medida y a mayor magnitud durante los futuros años. Entonces, todos estos datos de proyecciones se nos están quedando por fuera, todas estas experiencias y vivencias y distintas realidades se nos están quedando por fuera. Entonces, si el día de mañana me tocara asumir como ministra, también trataría de posicionar estas voces de las personas jóvenes dentro de las decisiones, porque nos permiten tener mayor ambición climática, nos permite tener mayor inclusividad y nos permite realmente dar una lucha climática que sea para todos y todas.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Yeah. Camilla, do you want to come in on this?
I briefly wanted to retake the previous question, and talking about what Penelope just said is we young people, the youth of today, and also retaking your ideas, is we are internet natives, meaning we also live. We were born in an era of communication, and these national barriers that we have faced, being it the country, language, culture, religion, these ideas are disappearing because we are now coming together as the youth, not the youth from Mexico or the youth from Spain or the youth from Norway. We are coming together as global citizens, which is an idea that I believe strongly is the solution for all of these problems. We still have these barriers and limitations because we still believe that every problem is separate in each country. We have differences, yes we do, but the climate crisis is bringing focus on this is a global problem. It does not discriminate. It cannot be a problem of one country or the most vulnerable countries or regions. This is a problem of everyone, every generation, every religion, every country. This is a problem we have to face together. And if we cannot dissolve these differences and go over them, how are we going to solve the problem in the climate crisis, which is a problem today and is going to still be a problem in the next couple of years?
Okay, thank you. Fabiola, a question for our young people?
A ver, yo creo que varias de las cosas que se han dicho hacen que pensemos y tengamos que repensar efectivamente cómo estamos trabajando juntos, porque a veces yo siento que hay un tema de los adultos y los jóvenes. Y lo cierto es que tanto en el grupo de los adultos y en el grupo de los jóvenes tenemos los que realmente queremos hacer las cosas bien y aquellos que les es difícil entender que esto es una crisis y que tenemos que trabajar juntos. Entonces, yo cambiaría el foco tal vez de la discusión sobre que todos los jóvenes nos digan que los adultos no los entendemos y todos los adultos digamos los jóvenes no nos entienden, para empezar a pensar cuáles son aquellas cosas en las que ya tenemos en común una respuesta que queremos dar. Somos ciudadanos globales, sí. El cambio climático nos afecta donde estemos. Queremos trabajar juntos y queremos construir juntos esos espacios. Entonces, la pregunta para mí es, si estamos de acuerdo en que en ambas partes podemos ser socios estratégicos, ¿cómo concretar eso? Porque cada vez que nos juntamos es más bien para, tú no me miras, yo no te miro, tú no. Entonces, ¿cómo lo hacemos concretamente?
Yes, I mean, these kind of things are two-way dialogue. Just as we need you, we do not depend on you, which is different. We do not depend on you, but we need you for this to have an active response, as well as you need us. This is a two-way dialogue, and this is a two-way problem and crisis that needs a two-way solution.
Good.
So,
Okay.
what I need, what I ask from my personal perspective, from my personal opinion is, whenever you're talking to us, as well as whenever we are talking to you, we need a different focus, because we are always seen as the youth, and because we do not have the experience you have, and because we do not have the knowledge which we do, is you talk to us as we are children. We are, but we are not stupid. And we as well talk to you because we have been taught that you are the authority and that you have the power. And you don't. You do, but we do as well. So I ask as well for the youth to be on the same ground when we are taking decisions and we are asking for things, as well as when you ask us things, to not make this a knowledge that I know better than you, or I have more experience than you do, that we are on the same ground. Do not think of us as stupid or that we do not know enough. And we as well have to know that we are not talking with a God, or that we are not talking to someone that is more important than us. In the table, we are all on the same ground, and that is what I ask.
Okay. Paolo, you want to come in briefly?
Sí. Bueno, yo creo que para empezar a responderte a ti, muchos jóvenes se sienten dolidos porque entienden que nadie le ha pedido perdón, y no creo que deban ser ustedes los que le pidan perdón, pero sí es verdad que incluso aquí en España hemos tenido políticos y empresas que creemos que han mentido y que son delincuentes climáticos, hablan del tiempo en Sevilla y no reconocen el cambio climático, y bueno, la historia los juzgará, ¿no? Pero una vez que se hayan reconocido esos errores será cuando pueda haber entendimiento. And for finish, I want to say that we need a strong public education system. That is the key of that problem. And of course, when I was in the high school and I studied economy, nobody told me about the responsibility of subjects of companies, for example. Thanks.
Okay, Sharon, I must allow you to pose your question. Okay. We're running out of time,
Yes.
that's the problem.
Yes.
Yeah.
My question to the young people.
Yeah. You ask them whatever you want.
Yes. I'm directing this at Penelope. We're about to sign this declaration.
Good.
I'm happy that Nigeria is signing this and will lead the rest of Africa to do so. What would you like to see us do that would make sure the child's rights in terms of the climate is protected? Then may I also add one more thing to all child rights activists and the environment strikers, the youth strikers. Besides advocacy and striking for the environment, I hear all your complaints that you're not given the space at the table, you're not being allowed to be part of decision making. Another way you can get in there is through politics, run for political office after your youth advocacy. That would help as well. Thank you. So what would you like to see after we sign this, how we can implement this?
Okay, so Nigeria is going to sign the declaration. I gather 8 countries, that'll be 9 countries. We need many more countries to sign the declaration. Penelope?
Very, very good that you are signing it. Because the climate battle is a battle of solidarity, a battle of human rights and children's rights. And I believe the climate battle is still one battle. Every other battle we as humans face depends upon. And children are already affected so hard by the climate crisis every day. And many of you have already signed the UN Convention on the Child of the Right and on the rights of the child. And we need you to act on your promises, really. And I think it's important because we need peace to manage to solve the climate crisis, and we need to solve the climate crisis to manage to maintain and create peace.
Okay. Anyone else have a burning need? We're pretty well running out of time. Carla?
Sí, yo creo que es como de suma importancia que también las personas que están en el público lleven este mensaje hacia sus países, hacia sus delegaciones. Hemos estado conversando con algunos países y la verdad es que, como decía Penélope, es un tema de solidaridad, porque realmente hay países donde la lucha climática no es solamente un activismo que hacemos ocasionalmente o un activismo que empezamos, es un tema de supervivencia. De verdad, en América Latina, en Centroamérica, tenemos condiciones sumamente fuertes. Ya tenemos, igual en toda la parte africana también, ya están las personas viviendo en resistencia. Ya no es solamente una cuestión de lo que estamos aquí hablando, ya es un tema de vida o muerte. Y cuando tenemos eso, entonces tenemos ya las vidas de las personas en las manos. Y eso es lo que tienen los políticos y las políticas en este momento. Y por eso es de suma importancia activar este tipo de mecanismos, pensando en la niñez, en la adolescencia y en las personas jóvenes de las zonas realmente vulnerables.
Thank you. Thank you. Did you want to have one?
Just a few words, just to say that we are in fact in front of a very deep transformation that is required by society. It's almost a cultural revolution, an intellectual revolution that we need, and we can feel privileged because young people and children are with us. So we shall overcome the challenge of climate change.
Thank you, Minister. In fact, I would say, listening to the young people on the panel today, children are ahead of the rest of the world in how to address this issue. Because you have come together in the solidarity that, for example, the 2030 agenda with the 17 sustainable goals says leaving no one behind, having that solidarity, caring about all of these different ways we have to address, and as the Minister said, be transformative. And I think it's coming across, you want spaces where you are listened to. I think this has been a very good panel because there has been a listening on both sides. I think each country should think about ways in which to make sure that young people have an opportunity to have their voice heard, listened to and acted on. And actually, never more so than in this climate crisis, because you have come together in a way that I really admire in demanding intergenerational justice. And you are, as you said, citizens of the world in doing this. You're not speaking narrowly for your own country. You're actually, Theo said the same thing as a couple of you have said. You're thinking about those who are not here. You feel privileged to be here. I think that there's a great deal to learn from young people in their approach now to this climate crisis, in the way that they are angry but also constructive, want their ideas to be heard, full of ideas about clean energy, green jobs, blue zones in the ocean, regenerative ideas, and also ideas of, this is, and Minister, you said this as well, this is a cultural and emotional issue. It's an issue where we really have to sense and feel that we have a crisis of our very existence. And who can be more compelling about that than those who are going to be most affected? Young people, children. So I hope that this panel will have helped countries in preparing for the nationally determined contributions and more ambition next year to think about ways of including institutionally young people in that way of going forward, so that your voices will be part of the solutions, will be part of the dialogue going forward, because I think this will be one way of giving a sense of the urgency and the need for transformation, not business as usual. So I'd like you all to thank this wonderful panel because I think it has really been very informative, very instructive, very inspirational. So please, your applause. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and I think that this is what the declaration is all about, is to make sure that once we leave this room, we bring all this spirit of two-way collaboration and dialogue to the negotiating table, but also to many other countries that can really join in signing the declaration. And just for you to know, while you were speaking, we have a new country. Sweden has also approved the declaration. So, at this point, let me introduce one of the most vocal advocates for children that you will hear during this COP. Dr. David Boyd is the UN Special Rapporteur on Human Rights and the Environment, as well as an Associate Professor of Law, Policies and Sustainability at the University of British Columbia in Canada. He'll be speaking today on behalf of the Global Initiative on Advancing Children's Right to a Healthy Environment. Please welcome David to the stage.
Thank you very much. It's a terrific honor to be here. And the first thing that I have to say is thank you so much from the bottom of my heart to the youth, to Theo, to Sarah, to Penelope, to the rest of the youth, for speaking with such passion and with such eloquence about their vision for a future of climate justice. It's also an honor to be on the stage today with some of the first signatories to the Declaration on Children, Youth, and Climate Change. And these are countries that not only talk the talk, but walk the walk. You know, Spain is one of the first countries to engage in the phase-out of the coal industry and do so in a way that includes a just transition for coal workers. Fiji is a country that is a small country, but with a very large voice on the international stage, also walking the walk at home. Fiji has an environment and climate adaptation levy, which is similar to a carbon tax, is moving rapidly towards renewable energy. And Costa Rica, you can't say enough about Costa Rica. Costa Rica already gets 98% of its electricity from renewable sources. Costa Rica has banned exploration for oil and gas within its national territory. Costa Rica has doubled forest cover from 26 to 52%. Costa Rica has a plan to decarbonize its country by 2050. So it's a terrific honor to be on the stage with all of you as well. But what I want to say is there's some people missing here this afternoon. The G20 is responsible for 75% of global greenhouse gas emissions. They're not here. They are absent. They are missing. And so we're in a situation where when countries of the world signed the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change in 1992, 81% of the world's energy supply came from fossil fuels. 27 years later, the proportion of the world's energy supply from fossil fuels is exactly the same, 81%. We, children, I apologize to you from the bottom of my heart. We are failing you. We have much more to do, and that's why it's so fascinating to me. The children, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, the World Health Organization are speaking with one solid, clear, and compelling voice that we need urgent, rapid, and far-reaching changes in all aspects of society in order to address the climate crisis. Exactly what Mary Robinson said, we need transformations. And one of the most powerful ways that humans can bring about transformations is by respecting human rights. If you look at the abolition of slavery, if you look at the women's rights movement, if you look at the civil and political rights movements, if you look at the movement for the rights of indigenous peoples, these are harnessing the power of rights to transform our societies. And in today's context, where we live in a global climate emergency, perhaps the most important human right of the 21st century is the right to live in a safe, clean, healthy, and sustainable environment. A right which is recognized in the constitutions of countries like Spain, like Fiji, like Costa Rica. We need this right to be recognized globally, and that's one of the main things that I'm working on as the UN Special Rapporteur on Human Rights and the Environment, is to ensure that every child, every person, not only has that right on paper, but enjoys that right in practice. And that, my friends, would be transformative. Another thing that I have the incredible privilege of doing as the UN Special Rapporteur on Human Rights and the Environment is working on a global initiative to advance the rights of children and youth to a healthy environment. And we've been having a series of absolutely mind-blowing intergenerational dialogues. We had one in Colombia in May, we had one in Indonesia in the fall, and the things that children and youth say are just overwhelming in their wisdom, in their eloquence. And the commitment, one of the commitments that I've made back to the children and youth whom I've met is that I will do my utmost to amplify their voices every opportunity I have. And I also have a daughter, I should say, Meredith, who's 13 years old, who's a climate striker. And we were in Victoria, Canada, a week and a half ago now on a climate strike. And Meredith's favorite part of the climate marches is actually the chanting. And so she said, Papa, when you go to Madrid, will you do some chanting with the people? So I'd like everybody just stand up for a minute, please. Just stand up, because you can't really chant or sing unless you're feeling that. So I'm going to say, what do we want? When do we want it? What do we want? When do we want it? ¿Qué queremos? Justicia climática. Cuando lo queremos. Ahora. ¿Qué queremos? Cuando lo queremos. What do we want? When do we want it? Come on, you can do that now. What do we want? When do we want it? What do we want? When do we want it? Thank you very much. And I really, the last thing I'll say is I'll urge everyone here to encourage their governments to sign the Declaration on Children, Youth, and Climate Change. And let's get governments to recognize everyone's right to live in a safe, clean, and healthy environment. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I think that with that, what an end to our event. And now we are going to be inviting all the governments who have signed the declaration, who are here. I know that Monaco is here, and others. Please come to the stage, because we are going to have a photo when the young people are going to hold the declaration, and this is going to be the invitation for many more countries to join us on really putting children and young people at the heart of the climate action agenda once we leave Madrid, or I would say from now. So everybody for the photo. Thank you so much for everybody attending. And yeah, Sweden, Monaco, every country is going to be here in the photo. Sweden. So let me remind you, all the countries represented here: Sweden, Chile, Costa Rica, Fiji, Luxembourg, Monaco, Nigeria, Peru, and Spain. A huge round of applause for the champion countries of the declaration.